Are we recording this, Brian?
It's supposed to be. It's just,
This conference will now be recorded.
I'll call the Willmar City Council special meeting to order for Monday, April 26th at 7 p.m. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Butterfield.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Osk. Davis.
Here.
Plowman. Nelson. Here. I have 7 present, 2 absent.
Did we get a request for absence from either of the two? Okay, I did not see anything, so.
Both are ill,
Okay,
right?
Justin had another meeting.
Oh,
Come in later.
Justin had a meeting. Mr. Osk, Councilmember Osk had a meeting, and Councilmember Plowman is ill. And they both notified staff of that. I don't know if they got that information to you, but they let us know they would not be here tonight.
okay. And they asked for an excused absence. Is that correct?
I would say yes.
Okay, so the 2 that are not in attendance have an excused absence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, this evening, we have a very exciting meeting. We only have one item on the agenda, but it's a very important item. And in attendance with us tonight is Patty with Baker Tilly, and I think she will probably be doing a bit of an overview, but I would like to start with an overview, and then Councilmember Davis, as the Chair of Labor, if you'd like to make some comments. If you don't want to, that's fine, but if you'd like to, I'll call on you after I make my comments before we go to Patty. So the city of Willmar is very fortunate in that we have 15 people that have applied for our city administrator position and have expressed an interest. The applicant pool is a very wide applicant pool. I want to thank Baker Tilly for the good work that you've done in securing candidates for us to review. I do appreciate that. I know, Patty, you and I have talked a couple times and you worked very hard at making this happen. The city of Willmar is poised in a very good position as being a city that is ripe for growth. We have a number of great projects happening within our community. We've got development happening in the tune of project that's looking to come to Willmar that will bring 500 head of household jobs. We also have a number of multifamily housing projects on the table. One of the things that we addressed a number of years ago was the need for increased number of housing units. And the question is always, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And it's the same with housing. What comes first? You bring housing or you bring the jobs? And I think they kind of go hand in hand. And so our community has really stepped up to the table. The city of Willmar is poised with its local option sales tax projects, and those projects are some are out for bid, and they're all under consideration, and the council's been working very diligently for the last 2 years on that project. And so there's a lot of exciting things happening here in Willmar. And I think that this job is a job that would be a gem for anybody who would like to take a community and move it to the next level. And I'm really excited to hear who our candidate selections are for this evening. And with that, I just want to let the council members know, kind of brief you ahead of time here, that I will be asking for four numbers from each of the council members, and we will select those numbers without any comment, just your 4 top people. And then we'll look to see if we have some synergy there, and then we'll talk about them. The candidate should not be addressed by name, should only be addressed by number, and their location also should not be disclosed because that could lead some people to know who those candidates were. I did have a conversation with Patty out in the hall before the meeting started, and all 15 candidates are still up for consideration, and so that's very encouraging. And with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Davis if you wish to make some comments.
Sure, just short. First of all, thank you, Patty, for
coming out here to help us. And I just want to say this is such a great community with all these exciting things happening, such as the mayor just stated. And I'm excited to see who we're going to pick. And I'm looking forward to working with all of my colleagues on this process. So that's all.
Thank you.
Hattie, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. It's good to see a lot of you on camera and in person. We went out and we advertised. We did a national search. And the reason we do a national search is we will try to attract people that might have been familiar with the community that want to come back, or there's some type of ties. So we did a search, a national search. We then asked the candidates to complete a questionnaire. That questionnaire had a bunch of questions listing out specific things that we wanted more information that they had. So what we were doing is we were comparing apples to apples. When we look at their resume, their cover letter, then we review the questionnaire at that time. There were two people, candidate 4 and candidate 15, that we did ask them to complete the questionnaire also, and asked if they get it in time that we would be able to present it to you. We do not have that information. There were a couple emails sent out and calls on those individuals. You're absolutely right, Mayor, that it is a diverse group of candidates. We have men, we have women, that I'm very pleased to present to you tonight. The whole objective tonight is to narrow the candidates to at least 4. We aren't maybe going to be interviewing those 4, but we would like to at least have 4, your top 4. And the reason for that is we want to make sure, and you don't have to give us 4, you can give us if you have your top 2 or your top 3. The reason for that is we want to make sure that every one of the council members has at least 1 or 2 of their top candidates within that. So that's why we want to make sure that everyone is represented, their candidates. And then from there, I would then contact them, see if they're still interested, because there are a couple of them that are applying at elsewhere. So once they have accepted, I will turn the names over to the city so they can then turn them over to the press as soon as possible, so we can get those out in the paper and on your website as quickly as possible. Then the other thing that we will need to talk about is, depending on where they're coming from, if we're going to be having people that are going to have to travel, then we're going to need to think about, okay, are we going to do Zoom, the first call or the first interview? Would you like to do that? If they're more local, then we can certainly bring them in. Everyone that I have talked to is very comfortable on coming here in person for an interview. The reason, if they are traveling from a little distance, it may take a little bit more coordination to get them here, along with setting up meetings. So we want to consider that depending on who the candidates are. And keep in mind, if they are traveling from a little distance, it is typically the responsibility of the city for the travel, pending your policy or procedure that you have. Okay? So, and then once we have identified the top, if there's any questions that I can answer publicly, I will certainly answer any of those questions for you. And then we will definitely have to determine if we're going to do Zoom calls or if you guys prefer in person. And then we will have to then identify the dates. All right?
Perfect. Procedural question, City Administrator Gramitz. If the council chooses, what we've done in the past is that we have offered a travel stipend, and as long as the council sets that in accordance with the travel policy that's been adopted by the council, are we okay with doing that? Did you ask?
Yeah, that's acceptable, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as I see it, we have 2 issues, well, 3 issues really that we need to address then, is we need to select our top 4 candidates, and I would hope to have a good conversation from the council about those candidates by number, again, not by name or location. And then if we do Zoom interviews or in-person interviews, and then the council should select that as well. City Clerk Thompson, if you could call the council member names by seniority or about how you have them on the roll call. And then I'll write down, and I know that Patty's going to write down as well, the selection of the top 4 candidates from each council member, up to 4. If they only want to give 2 or 3 or 4, that's fine, but up to 4 candidates. Okay? City Clerk Thompson.
Okay, we'll begin with Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Clerk Thompson. Mine is number 1, 12, 13, and 14.
Councilmember Osmus.
Just a second.
Oops, I'm sorry.
You said number 1, 13?
1, 12,
12.
13, and 14.
Perfect.
Councilmember Osmus.
Are you ready for me?
Yes.
Okay. I had 1, 3, 11, and 14.
Councilmember Butterfield.
I have 1, 8, 13, and 14.
Councilmember O'Brien.
I have 1. I have 14. And I have 7.
Councilmember Davis.
I have 1, 8, and 11.
And Councilmember Nelson.
I have 3, 11, and 12.
Patty, can you give us Councilmember Osk's candidates, please?
Yes. Number 8? Number 11? And number 12?
And then did we hear from Councilmember Plowman yet or not? Can you check?
Not yet.
Are you ready for mine, Patty?
Yes.
Number 1, number 2, number 13, and number 15.
And number 15?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have number 1 as receiving the most affirmative direction. I have number 11 and number 14 being equal. And I have number 12 and number 13 as being one off from number 11 and 14. But clearly number 1, I have number 1 was selected by 6 of the members present, 6 of the 7 present.
So number 1 for sure?
That's what I've got right now. I just want to make sure that our numbers are correct.
I've
And then I
got,
think we're going to ask the council to discuss
correct.
if they want to move anything around. I'm not comfortable with going with 5 people personally.
No.
Then I have number 11 as having 4 votes. And then I have number 14 as receiving 4 votes as well. that what you have?
Pardon me?
Is that what you have?
Yeah, so I have number 1 has 6, and number 11, 4, and number 14 has 4. Okay,
That's what I
correct.
have. Okay, council, I'm going to ask you for your comments in regards to the candidates. I want to keep this as a positive conversation, and let's talk about the attributes that you liked about the particular candidate that you were selecting and asking to move forward. And then if you would like to include candidate number 13 or candidate number 12, why you would want them included. And then if you think that they should be considered as the fourth candidate, either number 12 or number 13. So with that, I believe I saw Councilmember Nelson's hand up. Did I or did I not?
My only question was, I thought we were going to do at least 4, so I was wondering why we didn't just pick the next one.
Well, because
Because
number
it-
12 and 13 are
A
equal.
tie.
Okay, thank you.
Number 12 and 13 are
I didn't
equal.
hear that, so thank you.
I'm sorry, I may not have said that. Number 12 and number 13 were equal on the responses. Okay, council members, is there consensus on number 1 as being someone we should move forward? We had all but 2 of the council members select candidate number 1. Is there consensus on that?
I'm not-
Okay. Candidate number 1, we want to move forward for sure. Candidate number, so let's then leave 11 and 14 for now, and let's go to candidate 12 and 13 to see if the council wishes to move one of those 2 candidates forward. Is there someone who voted for 12 or 13 that would like to consider moving those candidates forward? Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. I did vote for number 12 because I felt that that person had experience in actual city government. And so was, I think, one of my reasons for selecting candidates that I did, was looking for city government, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, yes. Anybody else on candidate number, Councilmember Butterfield?
Oh, I'm on number 13, not 12. I can wait.
Okay. Councilmember Butterfield, your comments on candidate number 13?
Well, with number 13, we know the person's going to be here a long time, just not job hopping like a few other ones are on the list. So I would feel comfortable with number 13 being here a long time if that person was selected.
Additional comments for candidate 13? I would select candidate 13 as well. My reasons for selecting candidate 13 is that candidate is well-rounded in experience in working both in the private sector and the public sector both. Someone that is a fast learner is highly regarded. And I think has a proven track record of accomplishing tasks on tight timelines with positive outcomes of those tight timelines. And so that's why I had selected candidate 13. Additional comments? Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I voted for both 12 and 13.
So you're a winner no matter what.
Yeah. Number 12 has gone to school and joining state, so they know the area. And number 13, like you said, she's worked in public and private, and likes the area here.
You know, one of the other things I liked about candidate 13 as well is that when I was listening to our constituents and we had an individual from the public come to our platform on 2 separate occasions and really had a strong emphasis in wanting somebody local. And I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I think it's relevant because our citizenry came to us and asked us for that specifically. And so that's another reason why that candidate had moved up in my mind. Anybody? Can I put you on the spot a little bit, Councilmember Nelson? And can you expand a little bit more on candidate 13 for me?
I did not select candidate 13.
Oh, I thought you talked about candidate 13. I apologize. Councilmember Fagerly, candidate 13. I'm sorry, 12. I meant 12. Councilmember Nelson, 12.
You want me to expand on that? I'd
Yeah.
have to go back and look at the information.
Right.
I guess my personal feeling is that we need to find the best candidate for Willmar, and just a concern that we are a large enough, complex city that I think it deserves someone that has had experience in at least managing the size of population and the size of staff that we have. And so I don't know that I have any further specifics. I think in just doing my homework on this candidate too, that I think there is a track record there, and that I see a commitment in the positions where they have been, and explanations for some of the twists and turns in their career. And so I don't know that I have anything else with that other than just wanting to choose someone who can lead us and has a track record for that. So,
Councilmember Fagerly, same question.
Well, it appears that they have the experience and they are willing to start within 30 days, so
Right, I noticed that as well. Yeah,
pretty important too.
right.
So, but you really don't know until you do interview them though.
Right. Yeah. Anybody that's on the call that wishes to speak directly to candidate 12 or candidate 13? Okay, so Patty, help us to the next step, or Brian, help us to the next step of selecting one of the 2 candidates. How do you suggest we go about that? I mean, I think we've heard good cases. We've had 2 people talk in favor of candidate 12. We've had 2 people talk in favor of candidate 13.
Mayor,
Councilmember Nelson.
just a question for you. You indicated that there were some candidates that were already or had already applied other places. So are we, should we be considering more simply because we may lose one before we actually do interviews? Or can you not share with the ones that we've looked at?
Yep. 2 for sure that have applied somewhere else. And it's not that they want to leave. They've got really good reasons on why they are leaving and in the areas where they applied.
Part of the reason that I asked that question is that if I remember correctly, several city administrators ago, we ended up only having limited candidates to interview after we had done our selection. And I just didn't want to get in that position again.
Correct. And that's what I mentioned to the mayor too, is that I would at least like to have 4 candidates at least, because in case there is 1 or 2 that drop out, that you have individuals to look at. There are quite a few openings throughout the state, and they're going to continue to open up. And so one thing is that I do want to move fairly quickly on this, once they have been selected. But we also have to, you don't want the pool too large either. So keep that in mind.
What, just a suggestion?
4 or 5 is where you want, you don't want to go any more than that.
What if we stayed with 5, and to choose interviewing 3, and then if we lose 1, to go back to the other 2?
No, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. I think if we move 5 forward, we keep all 5.
Or what you can do, the other option is you pick the top 4 candidate and have one that can be the alternate. So if I call and 1 drops out because they are far enough in the interview process that they feel that they want to drop out, then I add that individual in there. That is an option.
But we have, go ahead.
I only said that since there seems to be 3 that people are okay with, and the other 2 were divided on. So I was just trying to find a way to not, to find a way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with going forward with the 5, but I don't like having somebody, I'll call it on the sideline, because, I'm assuming we're gonna make a motion tonight to have you contact these people. And then if we say, well, we're gonna contact these 4, but this other one, well, that person's just gonna drop out right away, because they're gonna say, well, they don't really want me anyhow. So,
I
that's the
wasn't
concern I
thinking
have.
of it of that way, because she would know in her first 3 phone calls whether she still had 3 people, and then she could make that decision based off from the information that we gave her. I don't see it as putting,
I'm guessing that the candidates are gonna be watching this meeting.
I understand that, and I think that's fair. But they don't know who the first 3 are either, so.
Correct. Yes.
I would be more comfortable moving all 5 names forward and then let you do that versus 4 in a second, or moving 3 forward. But I'm only one person, so.
I'm sorry, you were talking about moving 4 forward, so I think we're kind of saying the same thing, I think.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing, except how the 1 would be moved up, because we're gonna have to prioritize between 12 and 13, we'd have to prioritize.
I'm just concerned if she's already knows that some are applying elsewhere, that we don't get ourselves in the same position we did several searches ago. So,
We did that on 2. You're right. Councilmember Osmus, followed by Butterfield.
I would agree with the mayor. I would like to have 5 go forward. Do we need to have a official motion on that, or how are we doing it?
Yeah, we'll need an official motion. Let's go to Councilmember Butterfield first, but if you'd like to make that motion, I'll go back to you for the motion. Councilmember Butterfield.
I was gonna say, if we're stuck between 12 and 13, Councilmember Fagerly has them both picked, have him choose his top 1 to move forward. If we're stuck, we have to have 4 and not 5.
Oh, that's a good plan, and he is the mayor pro tem. So, and when it comes to actually selecting the city administrator, the mayor doesn't vote for the charter, so.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I think we were saying the same thing. I'd be comfortable going forward with 5, in just in anticipation of that.
Perfect.
I was not comfortable with 3.
I agree with that.
So I'm comfortable with 5, knowing that we could lose someone by the time we get to the interview process.
Councilmember Fagerly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would prefer to go ahead with 5 also, because one of them might be signing with somebody else.
Correct.
Councilmember Osmus, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we go ahead with the top 5 candidates.
I'll second.
Motion made by Osmus, seconded by Davis, to move forward with the 5 candidates. 5 candidates that we are selecting, for the record, are candidate number 1, candidate number 11, candidate number 12, candidate number 13, and candidate number 14. If I don't have that correct, somebody please correct me at this time.
That is correct.
Been a motion and a second. Additional discussion. Councilmember O'Brien.
I have a question for Patty. I don't really know exactly what the process is on this, but if you know 2 people who are on this list that are not going to be qualified, why can't we know that?
Which ones that are not qualified?
So, no, you said you had 2 that already had put in for another position. Did I hear that right?
They actually applied for a position in somewhere in Minnesota, and then this one came available. And this is one that they really wanted to apply for. And they would like to be in the area, so that's why they actually applied for 2 in the state.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think all the candidates at this time are qualified candidates unless
Correct.
Patty hears something different tomorrow when she makes phone calls, or
Yes.
tonight whenever she makes phone calls.
Very good question.
Good question, though, yeah. And we had that last time, actually out of the last number of hires we've had, that's happened on at least 2 of the occasions. Okay, so we have a motion that has been made and seconded to select 5 candidates to move forward. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Thank you very much. The next thing we have to decide is, do we want to do the next selection on in-person interviews or to do those interviews via Zoom? Councilmember Nelson.
I am comfortable doing Zoom for the next time around, as long as we commit that we would do a final in person. And I think it would be most consistent to do everyone by Zoom. I think it has to be an all or none. And just from timing and location, I think it would be wise for us to move forward with Zoom.
And keep in mind that it is an open meeting, so it would be a Zoom for everybody, and it would be an open meeting, which it would be the council that would be asking all the questions of the candidates.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Was that a motion that Audrey just made, or was it just discussion?
Just
It
discuss.
wasn't, but I can make one if you want me to. I will make that a motion.
Okay, I'll second it.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by O'Brien, to have the first round of interviews to be by Zoom. Councilmember Butterfield.
I was just agreeing with Nelson, so she made the motion, so I'm good.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. If we are considering, I mean, at this point now, we've almost committed to having 2 more interviews. And so the first one would be by Zoom, and then the next one would have to be in person, I would think. I mean,
Yes.
I don't feel comfortable hiring somebody by Zoom,
No.
which then extends out our process. So I think it's imperative that the council try to get the Zoom interviews done this week if possible, or the first part of next week. Because
It's more realistic next week to get the Zoom interviews scheduled. This week, I think, is going to be a little bit hard.
it needs to be the first part of next week.
I will do my very best.
So, because our administrator is gone the first week of June. And so, I mean, this kind of extended out the process one more step. So,
Who can I coordinate schedules with so we can,
our city administrator,
okay?
Mayor Calvin?
Councilmember
I
Knowles.
think in a way we're speeding it up, because if we had to ask these people to travel here,
Mm-hmm.
they would probably need a week or 2 weeks' notice or a week's notice to get here. So I think we can keep it moving.
I think that last time, I think we had, well, we only did 1 interview last time. We didn't do 2. We did an interview one day, and then we called back the top candidate for a second interview the following morning. The last time.
Okay.
So I think those that are traveling, that, I'm putting the cart in front of the horse. Councilmember O'Brien.
I'd make a motion that we set up the Zoom for the first part of next week.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded to set up interviews for the first part of next week, and that the consultant will coordinate schedules with the city administrator. And I think, as like tonight, I mean, you're just gonna have to set it, and then who can be there, and who can't, can't. I mean, it's just gonna be the way we have to do it. So, Councilmember Nelson.
I'd just request that we work with the council, that everybody be there. I think it's critical enough that we need as many people as possible. And so I think we as a council need to be flexible with the time frame where we can get the most candidates and the most council members together. So I think it needs to be a commitment from all of us to adjust our schedules to be there, so.
And that's exactly what we will do, is make sure that I will work with the city administrators, look at the schedules, and with Zoom, I think it's going to possibly be a lot easier for all of you to be able to attend those. Typically, we will go just a little over an hour on each of them. I will then prepare some interview questions, send them out for you to take a look at, and then what you will then do is provide any feedback or changes that you would like to the interview questions.
Okay. I mean, tonight was a priority too, and we have 2 council members missing. So, I mean, I'm not in favor of holding up this process a whole lot to make sure all council members can be there. I mean, I think we need to get the time out there when the meeting is, and then, I mean, like tonight, I mean, it was a priority tonight as well, but we have 2 council members that aren't here. So, and Councilmember Davis.
Well, is the interviews, are they recorded? Or can they be recorded, just so that if council people aren't there, they can watch it? If they're not part
Well,
of
it's a public meeting, so it's whatever you guys do.
So if we could have it recorded and then available as soon as possible, that they could watch it if they can't make it, maybe that would help.
But I mean, we'll be selecting the candidates to move forward, I
Oh,
would think,
the-
at that meeting,
Oh,
rather than come back to another meeting and select the candidates.
Okay.
I guess we could do that. We could not select the finalists. We could do the Zoom interviews, and then we could wait and then have it come to council. But then that would be the earliest would be the second meeting in May, and then you'd have another interview, and then you would have, then you'd have your conditional offer made, which would probably take a week. And then you have a 30 to 60 day notice that people have to give. So, I mean, you might have somebody here in August. I mean, it's still a timeline. I mean, we're only extending it a week, but we certainly could do that.
Can we see if Brian will stay till August?
I think he's made that pretty clear at this point that he wishes to be done.
I'm just teasing.
Mayor, you bring up a very good point that I forgot to address. Each of these candidates did list when they would be available, but keep in mind, it is typically 30 days or some of them possibly 45-day notice. So that's why we will get these scheduled as quickly as possible with the help of the administration, even to identify the second round, so these candidates all know too when the second round of interviews would take place too. So I will work with Brian right away tomorrow to identify that, the times, and we can get that out as soon as possible.
And I mean, so if our desire is to have all council members there, I mean, the earliest interview we're going to be able to set up at 6 p.m. would be the earliest. So if you've got 5 people, you're going till 11 o'clock. You're starting your last interview at 11 o'clock at night.
Mayor Calvin, I think all the other times we did it during the day, and I think that's a reasonable request that if somebody has to take a day off to do this, I think that's reality. So I think we need to work within the parameters of the candidates too, so.
Okay. So earlier you had said you wanted to make sure that all the council members could be there. We already know that we have one council member that has said that he has difficulty making a meeting before 5:45. So, I mean, we can't have it both ways.
I understand that. I think it's a choice, but I don't know that you can do 5 candidates at night if we're not going to start till 7 o'clock. So I think we need to put it back and look at it and see what we can do. So every other time we did this, we did it during the day, and people had to take time off to do it. So it's important enough for us to do it right. So.
With 5 candidates, we'll probably have to divide it up into 2 days, just to give you guys a little bit of a break too, so these names and the questions aren't running together in these candidates. So what we can do is break it up. So if we do have one that can't make it, at least that person can make the majority of them. Because I would like to have as many there as possible, I agree. And we will try to accommodate that, but we'll look at the schedules to see what your schedules look like. We'll put that as the priority, and trying to get everybody here. But more than likely it'll be 2 days, if you're okay with that.
Councilmember Osmus.
I was thinking that in the past, we just had an interview committee, and that all of the council members weren't in on the interview. Would I be correct in that?
No. When it comes to selecting the city administrator, all council members along with the mayor are invited to those, is how it's done. When we selected Mr. Gramitz, it wasn't done that way because he was the interim, and it was a recommendation to move him forward from the search firm. And so there was conversations that happened between the chair of labor and the mayor that put that together.
Well, I thought with Mr. Holland, that there was an interviewing committee, and then we just met the candidates at like a mixer.
We did have a mixer at the barn.
Right.
But the interview was done by the entire council. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I believe.
We did a lunch.
Okay.
We did a lunch that day also.
Yep.
With the candidates out at the Oaks. And the community had requested that they be allowed to be involved, and so we did that open house at the Barn Theater for community members that wanted to come in addition to council members. But we did the interviews, I believe, upstairs at City Hall. We also had, we rotated the questions so that everyone got asked the same questions and that no one deviated from asking questions. And I would assume that that would be our same, we would need to do that same thing for employment guidelines. Can't think of the right word, Patty.
Councilmember
The
Osmus.
questions.
Okay, and, again, I personally don't feel like 5 interviews in one day is too many. I've been on interview panels where, we've done 8 or 9 in a day, but of course we interviewed all day. I think if we started in the afternoon, whether that was like at 1 o'clock and went till 5 or 6, I think that's doable. I think that there's more chance that you have all the same council people that are involved. I can't imagine splitting it up, because how are they going to make a decision if they heard just some on one day and not the other ones on the other day?
Mayor Calvin?
Councilmember Nelson.
We're saying the same thing. That's what I think what we need to accomplish. I agree with you. I just don't think we can do 5 interviews starting at 7 o'clock at night.
Councilmember Butterfield, is there any way that you could get off earlier on one particular day next week?
If I know the day, I can run it by and see what I can do. But other than that, with me, it's day by day. A lot of times, people get called in sick, I go in. So.
Okay. So if we started at 4, like Councilmember Osmus is suggesting.
She suggested 1.
We could even probably do 2, and I could, they'll work with me. If I have to get off by 2, I can be off by 2.
Perfect. Great answer.
Like this.
Thank you for being a team player. I was trying to protect your turf is what I was trying to do. So start the interviews, first one at 2, and then we'll need a break probably between candidate 3 and candidate 4. We should probably have a 15 to 20 minute break.
What I would do is we'll send it out so you guys can have an opportunity to look at it, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then we'll, if we have to tweak any of it, and then we'll send it out to each of the candidates.
Okay. So we have a motion to set up the interviews for the first part of next week. We have a second to that motion. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have the issue of, because we do have a number of these candidates that are coming from out of state, so we will have to pay travel or give them the option for travel, I should say. And in brief conversation between the administrator and I, as long as we follow the city personnel travel policy, are we in agreement with going with that? That gives them the option of either flying or driving, but if they choose to drive, it's done at the most economical rate. So if driving, if the mileage is higher than the flight, then they would get what the flight was. If driving, I'm going to say it the same way both ways. So we would allow to pay for travel in accordance with the city personnel policy. Is there a desire to do that for our 3 candidates from Odyssey? out of the area. Well, actually, all 5 of the candidates would be eligible for that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Fagerly, seconded by Nelson to reimburse travel expenses for, according to the city personnel policy, travel policy. Discussion. Patty, I have just one additional question. When we hired a candidate before, there was a suggestion of them getting a stipend for the day. Are you seeing that being done at all?
What we find is that they will just pay per their policy, which is typically what you had just described. And then they would have, I'm not sure what's in your policy, but if they are going to be spending the night, it may be a hotel room, and then it may be a stipend just for a food allowance.
Right, and I think we still are paying by the meal, right, City Administrator Grammets?
Okay.
So when we tried to get the stipend in there, that didn't go through?
It's the IRS rate.
Yep.
In effect for the location that they are at, so it'd be our location at the IRS rate, reimbursable rate.
Okay.
And anybody can find that on the internet if they want to search it. And then generally, we've allowed, if they choose to stay the night previous and then the night of the interview, we've allowed those both to be paid.
So the day prior to, and then the night, or then the day that they have the interview.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's what we've done in the past. I think that's the desire of the council, right? Not to change what we did there. Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Councilmember O'Brien.
I was just going to ask, when will we know for sure if all 5 of these candidates are ready to go, ready for the interview?
What will happen, we have a motion on the floor, but what will happen is Patty will coordinate with Brian in the near future, and then we'll get that to us as quickly as they have the answers. And then the names will go forward. The names will go forward to the paper at that time as well.
I should have the names to you by tomorrow on who has accepted, because we want to get those names also to the press, to the local press, so they can start doing a story on each of the candidates.
Thank you.
Okay, additional questions? The motion is to pay travel according to the city travel policy and the personnel policy, and to allow for lodging the day prior to the interview and the day of the interview. Additional comments? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. This is a special meeting. Those were the only items related to our city administrator search. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a question.
Councilmember Nelson.
We need to turn these in tonight?
Well, we need them for the interviews.
You'll be getting, the question is what do you do with the information that you have? Anybody that's here, I can take them back and shred them. You would get a brand-new book when the interviews take place, or you can shred them from your home, but they are confidential, the materials that are in here.
If we give them back to you, you can use them again, right?
I could, yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. We're adjourned.